Hazur, as usual, we would like to know about Hazur's latest tour. If Hazur kindly would like to share with us.
Sit over there. Yes, please.
Hazur, we would like to know, we would like Hazur to share with us the most exciting event of Hazur's latest
Yes,
tour.
like we always do.
Yes, sir.
You know, this visit has been very extremely demanding in so many ways, because the people, the categories of people whom I was to address or meet were so different, and situations which I had to address were also so varied that in a whirlwind of things, you know, I had to go through that tour, changing from one stance to another, one position to another, addressing different people, different men, women, children, girls, etc., etc. So it was a very interesting and varied program, which kept me extremely busy. But still, during the same programs, I had times to relax. Whenever I held children classes in America or Canada, and they were in a very special mood of trying to imitate the central children classes. So such occasions always provided me with some relaxation. Also, I could occasionally watch Munir Ode here and there and some others, you know, which brought back the memories of home to me and so on. So this is a general comment on the tour. After the translation of this, if you like me to specify certain things in which our Arab brothers and sisters may be interested, then I'll do that. As far as the Americans are concerned, I've noticed that because they possess a very big country, they belong to a very big country, their desire to know more about Islam is decreasing. That is at the higher levels. At the low levels, only when they are approached individually and shown some beauties of Islam, they begin to become interested. But on the whole, the American public is just either interested in politics of subjugating the whole world under them, bringing them to this superimposed greatness, bringing them under their self-imposed, I should say, bringing them under the self-imposed greatness and treat them as vassals. This is what I noticed in America everywhere. They were courteous, they were kind, everything, but deep inside there was rising head of ego, of self-aggrandizement, of realization that if they were kind to others, it was because they chose to be kind. But they did not have to be. They were great, and the world is made to serve their cause. This is the underlying message of their psyche, which I might have misread. But generally I read these things correctly. So I was afraid for Americans because of this. Because during my previous visits a few years ago, America was under pressure from Russia. Their tone and attitude to all other people was less despotic than convincing. And they spoke of others, of course, with a slight sense of superiority, but at the same time as humans sharing their values with them, whom they must convince through reason. But this time, this concept of reason, conviction, persuasion had all gone overboard. this time I noticed, they're too sure of themselves. And they had to be, in the sense that they have great scientific advancement made in so many fields. And they, as a country, are in fact a continent in themselves. Their economy is self-dependent. Although they have to trade with other nations and countries, everybody must have in this world, but even if there is a crisis in their international trade, their industry will not sink, because the demand, internal demand on the industry is very great. So that even if they continue to feed the requirements of the American people themselves, the industry can survive. But some foreign countries have become so dependent on them that it is impossible for their trade to survive now without America permitting them to export things to them. So, looking at this economical situation from both America and other dependent countries, I'm quite sure American international trade will continue, because people would need America to send them military hardware and similar things on which they must survive on the American support. Things have been made difficult otherwise for many small countries who either have to openly go for American support for military hardware, or they will be denied that in other world countries if America does not want that to happen. As far as their dependence on Russia and China is concerned, this can happen, but at the cost of American display here, which can show itself in so many ways which will make life difficult for small countries. Previously, the small countries like Pakistan and other similar countries have been so much dependent on American military aid and other aids that if America discontinues that and ceases to serve them with the parts and little things which need constantly be supplied from America, the entire growth of the country would come to a standstill from that point of view. So things are getting very difficult for the rest of the world because of American self-reliance on their economy. The Americans' positive realization that the small world countries cannot run away from American influence, and they will remain dependent on America for a long time to come. These situations are not being liked by the common people of the third world countries, but they can't do anything about it. They like it or not, their leadership knows that they must serve the American cause and they must say yes sir to whatever they hear from America. And this unfortunately has a more unhealthy effect on American psyche. They were far more lovable people 10 years ago than they are today because of this despotic self-confidence. So wherever I met American leadership, I told them to try to safeguard their old values, try to protect the human values they used to have and their great-grandfather used to have. I've been referring particularly to their own people, that if you forget your past moral values and your past genuine uprightness in character, then your own people will also suffer from the same. And when they forget the greatness of their past moral character and behavior, whatever there was of it, then they themselves can be cruel to the American society itself. Now this is a bit difficult here to explain further, but there in America I explained things and they understood. I told them that my message to you in this regard is to return to your past human values, despite the fact that in the West there was freedom to shoot anybody, your rivals, etc., etc. But in the apparent chaos, there was still some system, and some moral values were always guarded and protected. Nobody would shoot anyone who would not like to shoot him. Nobody was permitted, without giving the chance to the opponent to beat each other in quickness of shooting, was permitted to shoot. Nobody was permitted to steal a horse and things in there. So ruffians were treated with great firmness, and respect for each other was a common word, despite the fact that the gun shooting and the trigger-happy people were at large, free to do whatever they like, but they always had respect to this moral principle, that a defenseless person who accepts his defeat and disgrace without trying to kick back must not be killed. But nowadays things are happening differently. No streets are safe. Mugging, shooting of innocent people, even if they are not armed at all, is on the increase. So the same attitude of values has to be bred into American life once again, or the things will go out of hand. That is just one small example of what I talked about. So many other things of human interest in America on which I spoke, and I must admit that all the audience were favorably inclined. They never reacted in negative terms. Even when criticized, they understood that criticism was well taken, well-meaning, and it was not a sort of complex criticism like some third world country people criticize America for everything, meaninglessly, and without base, without support. They understood that what I said was meaningful, and it did not originate from any hatred, any inferiority complex in me. So all these things and many others on which I spoke, I assure you that with the grace of Allah, the people who came to listen, they agreed. They sometimes came forward to express their agreement on these things, and I left them thinking and pondering over such values that they had forgotten before. So in this way, as far as the non-Muslim public is concerned, I think my short tour, but very busy tour, has been of some definite beneficence. Thank you.